chess game and we pause people. Do you want to explain it? Basically, we're gonna go up to TJ and Chandler and EJ and tell them to pause, and they have to stop what they're doing. Pause.
Huh?
Pause. Okay, stay like that. Okay, you can unpause now. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mom.
We're finding our next victim. Okay, cut it.
A messy background.
Pause. 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 Pause.
I don't like this attitude.
Stay there.
You're making me cry.
No. Pause. Pause. Hey, Chandler. Can you pick this up for me, please?
What's wrong with it? What do you need?
Pause.
Am I part of this game now? Wait, how long?
Just hang out for a little bit. Guys, you want to go to the office?
Is this real?
Yes. It's a pause game.
How do I unpause?
Not until I tell you.
So I don't hold this like this?
See you Wednesday. See you Wednesday. See you Sunday. Okay, you can unpause. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
What's up, Elevate? We're so excited to be back again with another week of house groups. Just a couple quick updates. We're not having a beach day this Thursday. Also, next Tuesday, we're going to be having a community night at the church campus. It's our Refocus community night. Make sure to go on our website, elevatejh.com, and RSVP for the event. It's going to be 7 to 8:15 at the church campus, and make sure you bring a mask. We're going to be following all social distancing guidelines, and it's going to be a fun night. We hope to see you there. This week we have a guest speaker, so get ready for that, but first we're going to go into worship.
Waking up knowing there's a reason. All my dreams come alive. Life is for living. With you, I made my decision. Lift me up, fill my eyes with wonder. Forever young, me alive. This freedom's untainted. With you, the moment is wasted. See the sun now bursting through the cloud, black and white, turn the color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. This is living now. This is living now. Either way, God, you're right beside me. In your love, I'm complete. There's nothing like living with you. It's like you created. I choose. See the sun now bursting through the cloud, black and white. Turn the color all around. All is new in the Savior I am found. This is living now. This is living now. Take me higher than I've been before. It's your perfect love to see me so. God, your freedom is an open door. You are everything I want and more. Maybe I don't really know what living is. Is it love? If it was, I'm a living it. Do I live in it? So astounding. Love is an ocean, you could drown it. A sweet embrace, a lovely taste. I taste and see, I'm under grace, the place to be. Means I never need an umbrella. I'm cool in the hot weather. I never, I ever understand. I'm a man in the hands of great plans. And stay in the faith and the life and never knowing the touch is still outside my clutch. But like, what's a dreamer? What's What's the hoping? What's the die for? Live to know it. This a living life I've been given to give. If I'm a liver, I'm a living to death. So what's the dreamer? What's the hoping? What's the die for? Live to know it. This a living life I've been given to give. If I'm a living, I'm a living to death. This is living now. Take me higher than I've been before. It's your perfect love that sees me soar. Got your freedom is an open door. You are everything I want and more.
There's a grace when the heart is under fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding, that will set me free. There is a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. There is another in the fire. And on my dead, every dead beneath the waters, I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. Should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning? Either way, I won't bow to the things of this world. I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding, the power set me free. There is a grave that holds nobody. Now the power lives in me. There is another in the fire. Oh, 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 I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to hell. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between will stay. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls gave in. Nothing stands between us. No, nothing stands between us. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come with me in the space between where I used to be and this reckoning. And I know I will never be alone. And know that's where you'll be. And I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be.
It's Brandon Vasquez here, one of the pastors on staff at San Marcos Escondido. I'm so happy I get to hang out with you again today. Hey, we're talking about Esther, and Esther is the only book in the Bible that doesn't mention the name God. But you can see throughout the story of Esther that God's hand and fingerprints are all over this story. The story starts out with King Xerxes. He's the king of Persia, and he's a big, big deal. And so for this party that he's going to throw, and I don't know about you guys think that you can party? I know some of you don't play. I know some of you think you can party, but this dude actually threw a party that was 180 days long. It was a festival where he invited all the nobles and all the big shots around all of Persia and called them to his palace and said, "Hey, I want you to see just how much of a baller I really am." Literally, that was what the party was about. Come and see all my wealth. Come and see all that I have. And so for 180 days, he had this party. And at the end of that party, he had a banquet that lasted about 7 days. At that banquet, he ended up getting drunk. And during that time, he called his wife, who's Queen Vashti. He basically summoned her over to the table. And when the eunuchs went to go and call Queen Vashti over to King Xerxes, she refused to go in. Now, at that time, there were people at the table that were like, "Hey, king, your queen can't do that to you. She can't disrespect you like that. You've got to get a new queen." And so King Xerxes, in all of his splendor, was like, "Yeah, you're right. I need to get a new queen." And so he sends out an edict. He had all the virgins in the land brought into his palace for him to choose a new queen. One of those virgins' name was Esther. She actually had a more traditional Jewish name, but the Jewish people didn't have the greatest reputation in the kingdom of Persia at that time. So she was known by just Esther. Now, she had a man named Mordecai. Mordecai had kind of raised Esther from when she was a young girl. He had been a father figure and a mentor, and he had been the one that was like, "Hey, if they're bringing you into this palace, you need to call yourself by a different name. You can't use your traditional Jewish name." And so all the virgins along with Esther are brought into the palace, and it takes 2 years to prep for these women to see this king. And then a couple years after that for him to even decide who it was. So this is like 3 or 4 year process. So out of all the eligible virgins that were brought to the palace, Esther is chosen as queen. And that's where we're going to pick up in chapter 3 of Esther, verse 1. And we'll go through to verse 6 and then skip down to verses 8 through 10. So after these events, King Xerxes honored Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. Now, Haman was just one of the officials in his army. It doesn't say why he was appointed to a higher position, but this is what it says. All the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman, for the king had commanded this concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor. Then the royal officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" Day after day they spoke to him, but he refused to comply. Therefore they told Haman about it to see whether Mordecai's behavior would be tolerated, for he had told them he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor, he was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, the Jews, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. Going down to verse 8. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, "There is a certain people dispersed and scattered among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom, whose customs are different from those of all the other people, and who do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them, and I will put 10,000 talents of silver into the royal treasury for the men who carry out this business." So Haman is brought to this higher level of whatever in the king's army, and he goes out to the palace gates, and everyone's supposed to bow down to him, but Mordecai refuses to do so. And so he's like, this is the ultimate sign of disrespect. I'm going to King Xerxes. I'm not even only going to have you, Mordecai, killed for this show of disrespect, but I want all of your people, the Jews, to be taken out and annihilated because of this. Mordecai learns about this, and that's when we pick up in Esther chapter 4, verse 9. Hathach, who was a messenger in between Esther and Mordecai, went back and reported to Esther what Mordecai had said. Then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, all the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that he be put to death. So Mordecai learned about what Haman was going to do to the Jewish people. He was trying to take them all out. And he said to Esther, you have to do something. You have to speak up for the Jewish people. You have to go to the king. And Esther's like, I can't go to the king. If the king doesn't summon me, even as the queen, then I can be put to death. The only exception to this is for the king to extend the gold scepter to that person and spare their life. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king. So Esther hadn't seen the king in 30 days. When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this. Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. Go gather all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. And my maids will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And listen to this. And she says, and if I perish, I perish. She knew. She told Mordecai, I can't go into the king's presence unless summoned myself. But she said, for my people, I'm going to make the choice to go into his presence and beg and plead on their behalf. And if I perish, I perish. She goes into the presence of the king, and the king says, who was it that wanted to take out the Jewish people? And so she says, I'm not going to answer that right now, but I want you and Haman to come to a feast that I prepared for the both of you. And so they have the feast a couple days later, and he says again, who was it that wanted to take out the Jewish people? And she said it was this vile person, Haman. And what's crazy is the king listened and to Esther's plea to save her people and said, Haman, you're actually going to be hanged on the very gallows that you set up to hang Mordecai on. A crazy twist, an ironic ending for Haman's life. Now, most of us will not get a chance to save a whole entire people group, but there will be points in our life where we get set up to approach a place and then make a decision. We have a choice to make. And I wonder for myself, I wonder for you, if we will have the courage and bravery that Esther showed. And she said, if I perish, I perish. Now, the decisions that we make might not lead to life or death for us. But Mordecai said this before she said, if I perish, I perish. Mordecai said, what if you were made for just a time such as this? What is it in your life right now? What is it in my life where I have to approach the time such as this with the courage and bravery that Esther showed? And walk into that and say, I might not want to do this, but I know that this is what God needs me to do and wants me to do. And if I perish, I perish. Have a good night, guys.
We hope that message was super encouraging for you guys. We hope to see you next Tuesday, 7 to 8:15 at the church for our Refocus Community Night. Make sure to check our website, elevatejh.com, to RSVP for the event. We love you guys. See you next weekend.